Welcome to Momming as a Millennial, the podcast where we explore the intersection of tradition and modern parenting. Have you ever felt overwhelmed trying to balance being a mom with your professional aspirations, all while dealing with side-eye from your parents who think you're doing it wrong? Me too. I'm your host, Christine Gerizzo, a journalist, blogger, and proud mama of 2 young children. I'm so glad you're here with me. Together, we can navigate the complexities of millennial motherhood and find what resonates with our true, authentic selves. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Momming as a Millennial. Today, the crux of the conversation that we're going to have is all about how being raised in a particular religion or culture can really impact who we become as adults. And I think the question I really want to answer in this episode is, how do we become who we're meant to be, or even get the chance to explore who we're meant to be if we're brought up in such a rigid environment that doesn't really allow for that sort of exploration because of religious limitations or maybe cultural beliefs. So I have another great guest with me today. Her name is Jenn Barton. She is an intuitive and tarot reader. Did I say all that correctly?
Yeah.
I say, and you expand. So please share a little bit about yourself and your expertise.
So I've been a channeler like my whole life, right?
Okay.
But I just tell people I'm an intuitive reader. So anything like the cards, right? Like tarot cards, they're just a tool to help like enhance your intuition, or some people need to see to believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's more of a confirmation for people when I use things like the cards. I actually didn't even start using cards or any kind of like tools essentially until a few years ago. They never really called to me or anything. So for me, I'm clairaudient, sentient, and voyant. And so audient is my strongest gift. So it's like someone's just yapping away in my ear, or I hear things like all of a sudden a song will start playing in my head. And so I'll know to cue in on to like the lyrics. It'll sound like someone's talking in my head, but it's not me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of fun, but I'm an intuitive. Yeah. But we're all intuitive. But then my background was in therapeutic arts. And so I was like, I kind of want to do that. Yeah. I have a lot of things
I was going to say, you went to school for therapeutic arts?
So my degree ended up being in psychology, and then I minored in art therapy and dance.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah. But I started off with art ed, but back in, the late 90s, early 2000s, you could either die on the street as an artist or become an art teacher.
Right.
And so I went to school to be an art teacher, and literally my last semester, right before I was graduating, I found art therapy, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. Like, I love this. But as I've learned through all these years is, don't force things, don't force outcomes, follow the flow. And, when things like that happen, or like I go through an entire 4 years of art education to then say, I'm going to go for another 3 years and pay more for school. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
You learn to just go with it. And, where I'm actually now in my career, 20 years later, everything that I have done has landed me here. And every bit of schooling or experience or, failing forward or throwing spaghetti at a wall has landed me into where I'm at, which has been really cool. So, because I just started like a whole new career, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah, which has been really rad. But it's a culmination of owning a studio and my therapeutic art background. So I worked with people who had intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities for the last 20 years, and mostly with art, residential. I've done it all in that field, but always art based. There's always some sort of undertone of art. So even when I worked in residential and oversaw a handful of group homes, I still did art in all of the group homes. So there's always this wanting people to know that they had a voice, and that they had some sort of say in their life, which is funny because, you had asked me kind of what the intent behind what I do now with the readings. And I'm like, every time I turn around in my life, what I end up doing for any kind of money or career or side hustle is showing people their why. It's their light bulb going off over their head, and, having them understand that they have power in their voice. And it's more of like an empowerment process for people. So
I absolutely love that. I love when people can uncover what they're meant to do or what they feel passionate about, and then have the courage to go ahead and do that, because that's really a difficult thing, I think.
It is, yeah.
The courage part. So first I want to talk about your upbringing.
Sure.
Because we met when you did my first ever tarot card reading, because I was brought up a particular way that taught me that those were bad. Those things were bad. I can hear my producer laughing because he's also brought up Catholic. So at that time, you had mentioned that you were raised Irish Catholic and Wiccan.
So my
that blew my
mom,
mind, I just want to say.
But it's the exact same thing. It really is. Really and truly, so we were with my mom most of the school year, and then wherever my dad was stationed, because he was in the military, we would spend the summers with him. And his mother, she started noticing when I was really, really young. So there's this thing called psychometry where you can touch objects and get downloads. Well, we'll call them downloads. Or see things, or your intuition kicks in. We'll say that. That was her biggest thing, was just kind of, she would touch people and be able to just know everything about them.
Really?
Yeah. And so she started noticing that I was saying things that I shouldn't have known at that age, or couldn't have known, or, you know what I mean? And the way I was phrasing things or wording things. She's like, oh, here we go. So I'm one of 3 girls. I'm the oldest. So then I've got 2 younger sisters, and we've all kind of walked our line with our gifts, or come into different gifts. One has prophetic dreams. The youngest, she's so funny. She's more like the scholar. She's an astrology girly, through and through. I can call her and be like, hey, I've got this person, this is their birthday. And she will be able to tell me literally everything and anything about that person, and what was going on when they were born and this. I'm just
oh, that's fun.
Is insane.
I had a guest, we talked about human design a couple episodes back, and that was opened a whole new world for me, because I love astrology.
Human design. I always say it's where psychology meets the woo-woo.
Right?
It's incredible. It's one of my favorite things. I love archetype type, work, and oh my gosh, I love human design so much.
Yeah, there's so much to learn. I'm going to be peeling back that onion for a long time. So does your whole family have gifts then?
We all have gifts. It's just to what degree we want to develop them. Okay. And, so when we're young, right, and we tell our parents we have an imaginary friend, because maybe you have mediumship, right? And so maybe you're, as a young child, because we're not suppressed by our ego when we're that young, right? We don't have all of the religious background, the cultural background, the societal background and norms and whatever to say that's not real, or that doesn't exist, or no, for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so when we're children and we're allowed to explore that, oh my God, it's incredible. So it's funny, I was telling you right before we started, my mother, she was really into the darker side of Catholicism. We were a horror movie family through and through. So she's huge Catholic, very big into Catholicism, loves the Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary's everywhere. It's now even tattooed on me. But she was really into stigmata and exorcisms. She liked the paranormal side of Catholicism, which was kind of creepy and weird. But when you're a kid and that's all you know, you're okay.
Right.
So it wasn't really a shocker that me and my sisters got into the things that we got into, or wanted to develop our gifts. And were they scary? Yeah, it was kind of scary, as you got a little older and started understanding things or hearing things. And you're wait, you didn't hear that? Or you didn't see things move, or, picking up on energies, or if you're in a space, energy attracts energy. So, but my mom was very big into that's the devil's work, right? Nope, we're not doing that, or that's not allowed. Even though she believed in did you ever hear of the Children of Fatima, the visionaries for the Virgin Mary?
Yes.
So one thing that I've really also learned throughout all of this is that it all kind of is the same thing. So when I really dove into talking with my grandma, who still actually, even though she was really big with her gifts, towards my adulthood, she was I more identify as Christian. She's that's just what I kind of align with. But it's not something that she ever really talked about a ton, her own faith. But she'd be this is how you control this, or try this, or let's work on this, but she never really talked a ton about her gifts. She was adopted. Her mother was from Ireland. She was actually a vaudeville dancer in New York City. She didn't even know she was adopted until she was 16.
Oh, wow.
And then she went to go see this vaudeville performance. So she was from an affluent family in the Upper East Side. And it turned out her mom was the star of the show, her bio mom.
Wow.
And she had gifts and all this stuff. And so she got to know that side of her family. She got to meet all of her siblings and her mom. And that's kind of where she started learning about all of that stuff. that stuff.
I say the Wiccan stuff? Is
yeah, but again, like we don't like to, because for me, the biggest thing that I have is it's all the same thing. So I don't like to label it as one thing.
Yep.
Like some people may identify with like gods and goddesses, and then some with like saints or like Heavenly Father, Holy Spirit. You know what I mean? I do like to say there's a delineation between like what we work out of. Like I work out of like love and light. You know what I mean? Like I'm not calling it anything dark. I'm not trying to bring harm or ill intent or negativity to anyone or anything. So I still say words like pray. I always tell people like manifestation and praying and setting intention. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It really is. Our words have power.
Yeah.
Whether we're thinking them, whether we're speaking them, whether we're writing them. So when people are like, oh, you're casting a spell or you're praying in a Catholic mass, look at it, dissect it. You're still calling upon a higher power. You're still calling upon one big energy for a particular purpose, whether it's healing or to come help with a situation with your family or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just what you decide to call it.
Yeah.
So whether it's Hecate or whether it's the Virgin Mary, whether it's the triple goddess, whether it's Mary Magdalene, well, I guess in Catholicism, she's a whole nother beast.
So no one's praying to her.
No one's praying to her in Catholicism. But yeah, like I will say it was hard growing up because my grandmother never really talked about how she identified, which now I get. But then she didn't also talk about that, like why she didn't identify as something in particular until later in life. But then I had my mother who was like, church, 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 that's devil's work. Don't go near that. Don't, pray on this, the rosary and do this and that. And I was just like, but it's all the same thing. Like we're all praying to something to protect us and keep us safe and bring abundance and prosperity and healing. And
did your mom like view what your grandmother was helping you and your sisters with as a negative thing then?
We learned not to talk to my mother about it. We weren't allowed to like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we would just button up about that stuff. But growing up, it was wild because you're being put between these two different worlds.
Right.
That I just kept seeing so many similarities. And this might sound weird for like you and your listeners, but like, some people don't believe in spirits. Some people don't believe in this kind of stuff, right? But no matter where we lived, no matter what we were doing, there was always someone who was not here anymore. I'll put it that way. Some kind of energy or entity that we were dealing with within a house or a home. Every apartment I've had has had some kind of energy or like activity in it. And you don't know what to do with that when you're that young because you're like, what? I don't understand what this is or like why this is happening. So my grandma would try, especially when I was like getting older and she could see that there was an actual fear of my gifts. In the summers, we would stay with my grandma for a couple of weeks because my dad would still have to work like a Monday through Friday until he could like use his vacation time and then just be with us for the rest of the summer. And my grandmother would hear me in the middle of the night, like freaking out or talking to myself, but like trying to tell these things to go away or to like make sense of things. And so that's when she would like pull me aside and be like, hey, this is how we deal with that. And like this protection and, say this kind of a prayer or whatever. But really more importantly, she empowered me to deal with it in the way that I felt most aligned and most comfortable. So I created my own prayers and who I was calling on and who I felt naturally aligned to. So like when I sat down to do that event that I met you at, I think I did up to like 11 or 12 readings in the like 3 hours that I was there. But every single time while I was like clearing out my deck and just, realigning myself and clearing energy out, I said the exact same prayer of protection every single time and to like open up what I needed to open up with my team. And so when I say team, it's, my guides, ancestors, guardians. And as I've gotten older, I don't know if it's the Catholic guilt, but I do align with Heavenly Father and Holy Spirit. It's like, I don't know if it's because that's what was like drilled into my head as a child that this really truly does exist. But I will say from my experience and from having these types of conversations with people, it's not all light and love, I'll tell you that. Especially as a kid, when you're trying to navigate these types of energies and opening yourself up in a safe way, you could mess up. And you can let something around you that you shouldn't let around you. You want to be dumb. And like my grandmother used to say all the time, you're not a circus, you're not a performer. Do not do any of this stuff for like clout or for like to impress your friends, because you're going to mess with some stuff that you shouldn't be messing with. So I will say that is something that I really took to heart. You know, you can open up some stuff that maybe you don't really want to open up. My grandmother would be like, you got to deal with that and we got to figure that out. And did you learn your lesson? And boy, did I.
Yeah. And I think that's true in the physical world as well. Like there's good and evil everywhere.
Yeah.
Good intentions, bad intentions with people.
Yeah. It's how you want to use it, how you want to see it. Do you want to let it near you?
So you think growing up with those two different experiences helped you to see the correlations between the two and
all of it?
Yeah.
So when I was going to college, right, I went to a private school and it was like a religious school. Weird. And I didn't go because it was religious. It just ended up being religious. But what was cool was you had to take some sort of religious class, at least one a semester. And so I just started diving into all the different religions like Islam and Judaism. And because I'm like, oh, why not? Right?
Yeah.
Take advantage of it and really learn. It's all the same thing. It's just what you call it, you know? And there's tweaks to cultural stuff, right? But it's all about all that is divine, you know? And I think in my reading with you, I have a little spiel that I give everyone. And I always say things like, when I say, you know, divine, it's God's source creative your own understanding, because we all have our own understanding of what divine universe God is, right? And sometimes people just don't align at all with any kind of spiritual being whatsoever. So I always tell people our intuition really is just a conversation, like a 5D, 4D conversation with our higher self, without our ego and without all our crap pushing down on us, and divine. And so whether you think you're spiritual or not, we're all spiritual beings, you know, we're all a soul just wearing a meat suit.
And like Lady Gaga.
Exactly.
That's funny. I have like this whole list of questions I was going to ask you about pretty much everything you're talking about now. But one of the questions was, what research have you done, like investigation for yourself of other religions? And you answered that. You took some classes and
years worth. And I haven't stopped since.
Right.
And then I dated someone who was Muslim for a couple of years, and culture definitely plays a big part in religion as well, right?
Absolutely.
And so it was really cool to like be able to see not only their faith, but their cultural like aspect that tied into that faith. You know, Christianity has how many different parts of it, right? You can be Catholic, you can be Protestant, you can be Baptist, right? So it's the same thing with like Judaism and Islam and all of that. So it was really cool to just see how their family, you know, embraced their faith with their culture, you know, and it just blows my mind when you hear there's wars over that stuff. You're like, at the end of the day, when we're done here, when we decide it's our time and we're out, at least from the experience of working in the capacity that I have, what's over there, wherever over there is, it is nothing like what anyone, you know, if you believe there's heaven and hell, then great, there's heaven and hell. But if you believe that you're coming back, then you're coming back. You know, your perception is your reality kind of a thing, right? One of the biggest things that I love about tarot, and I used to be like, absolutely not. My younger sister used to tell me all the time, you would kill it with tarot. Like, you'd be so good with tarot. She's the one that's like the scholar. And I'm like, I'm not like you. I don't want to have to go back to school to learn, because there's 78 cards in those decks. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I cannot even imagine. I don't have time for that. Absolutely not. First of all, like, I teach it. I teach all kinds of divination tools and energy work and intuitive development. But when you can just see it for what it is like a tool to increase and develop your intuition or enhance it, it's knowledge that you use across the board in your life. Like when people use the Bible to dictate how they move through their life, right? So I always use the houses or the suits. There's 4 in tarot, and wands is like, I always say I'm a wands girly through and through. You know, it's all about passion and purpose and creativity and joy and taking bold action, and it's about alignment. And when I was looking through all of your episodes and listening, and I'm like, there's so much about alignment and soul's purpose and what sits on your heart. Yeah, like what sits on your heart, your highest good, your highest alignment. And that's the House of Wands, right? And if I remember correctly, you got quite a bit of wands in your reading. But what I also love about the House of Wands is it's about creation and understanding that you make the rules, right? You create your own reality. And so then then it starts to link into all those other big concepts and conversations of, right and wrong and manifestation and praying and intention setting and all of that. And I think like the coolest thing that I've learned throughout all of my life and all of the work and all of the research has been, especially in the last like 10 years, it's like, just let go of the wheel. Like, just let go of the wheel. Stop trying to fabricate the outcome. Even though I say, Wands is about the house of creation and understanding that you make the rules, it's also the house of faith and trust. It's shut your eyes and jump. That Knight of Wands card, it's your green light card, right? Like just, you're standing on the edge. Are you going to talk yourself off or are you going to jump, right?
Yeah.
It's all about perspective. And there was a really cool episode that I had seen that you had done recently about fear, or at least part of the conversation was around fear.
Yeah.
And really and truly, the House of Wands is about, how do you want to use that fear? Do you want to let it keep you safe? Do you want to let it keep you stuck? Do you want to weaponize it and alchemize it and make it, an exciting thing for you to push you forward? It's really been about set the vibe. Like when people are like, oh, I'm manifesting and I've got my vision board that I look at every day and I just envision this so particularly. And I'm like, oh, that's where you guys are messing up so bad.
Yeah. Tell us, why are we messing up when we do that?
Set it and forget it, girl. Set it and forget it. The vibe, get really clear on the vibe.
Okay.
How do you want your life to look, sound, and feel? Who do you want to grow into? First and foremost, who do you want to grow into? But then how do you want your life to sound, look, and feel? And then let your team take over and let your team bring it to you, because we are all divinely guided, all divinely protected, and it's all in divine timing, right? I used to be so anal and just, single mom and doing everything on my own and having to make sure that all, the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And the more I've learned to just say, everything is figure outable, I am protected, and divine isn't, we call divine feminine energy, right? I no longer chase, I attract. And the more I understand that when things start to fall off my path, or I stop resisting when there is a resistance, and I don't try to square peg round hole a situation, the more I start to see it for what it is immediately, that's when the doors open. That's when everything starts to make itself right and whole again, right? But it's that fear of change. It's the fear of what's on the other side. It's fear of, should I be walking through the door? Can I walk through the door? Everyone being scared of letting go of what no longer serves them, right? So when we manifest, one of the biggest pieces of it, at least from my point of view, my perspective is an experience, is being brave enough to let go of what no longer serves you. And when we hold on to that, when we're like, okay, I have this on my vision board and this on my vision board and this on my vision board, you're still controlling and you're still clinging very tightly to a certain outcome. So let that be your vibe. Let that be like hey, this is kind of how I want things to look. But understand that our experience in life is going to keep us here, right? This is our happy ending. This is best possible outcome. But like divines, I can't even reach it, right?
Yeah.
It is way up here. And it's like every time you try to like really hone in on those nitty gritty details and control it, it's like divine's trying to bring it in and you're just intercepting it. You're like, no, thank you. No, thank you. And divine's never going to put you on a path that's harmful. The lessons may suck. But divine's not going to put you on a path that's going to ultimately harm you. It's always for bigger and better. It's always for your betterment. It's always for your highest good. And again, the quicker you can understand when resistance is coming in, like, oh, this actually isn't for me, and I have to be okay with that. I have to accept that. And then just ask, okay, well, what are you trying to bring in? A lot of people are like, oh my God, all this garbage is happening to me right now. I remember a few minutes ago, I had said our words have power, right? So when we're thinking, when we're speaking, when we're writing things out, when we say things like, oh God, could today get any worse? Universe is going to show you that. Divine's going to be like, okay, yeah, here. We'll show you how bad it can get.
See, that's funny because that's something that, ironically, growing up Catholic, I was taught to like not say, oh, I feel sick over this or whatever, because that's what's going to happen. Then you're going to feel sick, or, oh, I could die, and stuff like that. It's like, don't speak, don't say those
don't
things.
Speak it into fruition.
Yes, because it'll happen.
Yeah, but it's funny because they're like, oh, witches are casting spells and that's evil. It's like, well, what?
This is so interesting. Going back to the religion piece, I currently am struggling very much so, because now I have to make decisions for my children that, are going to impact them for their entire lives. And I don't know that I'm Catholic. And so like, this has been a long time coming, I feel. And it's more of like a broader sense. Like, I feel like Catholicism is such a narrow thing. And there's room for all. And so that's kind of like where I'm at this point. But then it's like, well, what do I do for my children? Because both sides, my husband's side and mine, like, it's very important to them. Catholicism is like the end all be all. And so they want the kids baptized and make their sacraments and all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like I struggle so much with what I want to do, how much.
Why can't you do it all?
All that aside, though, like, what is your advice for, like, how do you raise kids? Like, does it matter? Because I have very open conversations with my son. He goes to church school, and I say, if you ever hear anything that sounds weird to you,
take what resonates, leave what doesn't.
Yeah, like, bring it back to me. We'll talk about it, and we'll figure out, like, what you truly believe, because you don't have to believe everything that they tell you.
Then you're doing it. Do you know what I mean? So my mom said to us, she made a deal with us. We were all very much like, no, to Catholicism. It just innately did not feel right to me, especially when I got older and started doing my own research and talking to mentors, talking to my grandmother, even though she was, I guess, kind of more Christian, but like her gifts were her gifts, right? And she did believe in goddesses and stuff like that, you know? My mom said, do the sacraments, do the thing, go to church every week with us, go to Sunday school. When you are confirmed, what was it, 10th grade?
Yeah.
Right? So your sophomore year of high school, you can then decide whether you want to continue on in this journey, because then at that point you're an adult in the eyes of the church and you can figure that out for yourself. And it's funny because I don't know if you remember when you got confirmed, you had to write a letter to the bishop about what being confirmed meant to you, or maybe it was just my church.
Yeah, sounds vaguely familiar.
Honey, I wrote that letter. And my mom was like really involved in our church and taught Sunday school, and everyone knew her. And when we got that call from the bishop, he was like, we need to have a conversation. My mom was so pissed. And mind you, like back then too, I was like punk rock and God, it was the mid-90s. So I'm like, blood red hair down to my butt and like wearing dog collars and like black lipstick and like corsets to school, you know?
Naturally.
So she was so mad. But in my letter, I wasn't being like an angsty teenager. I literally was like, hey, I've had these two worlds that I've been walking the line between my whole life, and I have these gifts, and I didn't really go super into them, but I'm like, here's my belief. And I don't necessarily believe in Catholicism, but I do believe there's a higher power, and I'm not like trying to do anything crazy and dark and awful to anybody, right? Because what you put out there is what you're getting back. Every religion at some point believes that, right? Do unto others as you would have done unto you, right? Yep. He thought that was super interesting. So we ended up having a really long conversation on the phone. And he was like, I don't know if making your confirmation is right for you. I'm like, it's not, but we need to appease my mother and you don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I ended up making my confirmation.
So as far as like what you identify with,
I think, so I tell my kids, you know, like growing up, so both of them have been baptized. My oldest was baptized more because it was super important to his dad's side of the family. And so I'm going to honor that, right? And my youngest son didn't get baptized until I think like 2 years ago. He was like 8 or 9. And we let that be his decision. But every conversation we have, like you, is very open, very, you know, we don't force them to go to church. They go to church with grandparents for those types of situations. They are not going to like Sunday school and going through the sacraments. And we talk about everything and anything. We talk about, you know, what it is to have integrity and acceptance and grace and compassion, empathy, all of that, right? I remember my oldest, we were walking through Target when he was like 5, and he saw all the, you know, Kwanzaa and Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas and all this stuff out. And he was like, what do we believe? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, like, what religion are we? What do we believe? And I was like, that's a loaded question. You're too young. But we believe in being good people. We believe in, you know, treating people the way we would want to be treated. We believe in not doing crazy, awful things like stealing and killing. So we had a conversation age appropriate for his, you know, understanding at that time of like what we believe. But also we believe in being open and honest with ourselves, right? Like, and that's one of the biggest things that my 11-year-old is going through it right now, the integrity piece of things, you know, because he's a kid. He's gonna lie, right? Yeah. He is pushing that boundary real good. But that's teachable moment, right? As a parent, we have our teachable moments. So for me, I guess I would say to parents that don't know what to do or are getting pressure for organized religion from in-laws or their own parents or their families or their partner, right? you have to do what's right for you as a parent. And I think as long as we're giving them the tools to use their discernment and their gut and have conversations about stuff with them about right and wrong and empathy and compassion and integrity, I think it's let them decide what they want to do with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be there when they need you because they're going to mess up.
Yeah.
As we all know, look at us. I can't believe I'm still alive.
So true.
Right? And being raised in the 90s, we were feral. We were feral. But like, both my sons have gifts. My oldest son has decided it's weird. And so where I said earlier, we're all intuitive and it's to what length do we want to develop that? He has decided to shut it down. It's not something he wants to deal with. He doesn't want to be weird like his mom. He doesn't, you know what I mean? But my youngest son, he is definitely got mediumship in there. He is light attracts light, energy attracts energy, right? He is like moth to a flame when it comes to things. We go into buildings and they just become alive. We bought a house that's 157 years old at the beginning of the pandemic. It was like an old single family Victorian that had just been fully remodeled. And immediately, he was like 5 at the time, immediately was coming in my room telling about the conversations he was having with the servants there and the people that were still living there. He told me that the house was a boarding house before we even looked up what the house was and how there was a woman who controlled the house. So I guess the manager of the boarding house, right? And it was weird because like, he was so confident in that information. And then when we would look it up, it was accurate, you know? And he's like, I think I'm an empath. And I'm like, no, honey, you're way more than an empath. You are an empath on steroids. You're clairsentient. He's very open about his gifts and wants to learn and doesn't think they're weird and that kind of stuff. So he wants to learn. Whereas my oldest was always like, nope, don't want to know anything about it. Don't care. Shutting it down. His whole life. He was like, nope, nope, nope.
What would you tell people to try to like figure out or explore what their gifts might be?
I always say be open mind, open heart. Always say prayer protection before you start talking to anyone or dealing with anything. But that's one of the things I teach in intuitive development. I teach energy work and like divination tools and stuff like that. So earlier when I had said I noticed partly through my career, it's no matter what I did, it was always the light bulb moment for people and the empowerment. So whether it was coaching a small creative business or it was art therapy or this now, it's a lot of gendered women that are in their like 30s and 40s and sometimes even older, you know, in their 60s and their 70s coming to my classes and being like, I finally feel ready to accept that I have these gifts and I want to explore them and develop them. You know, they're like, well, how do I know what they are? And I was like, how have you just been knowing, right? So I'm audient, I hear, or song lyrics, you know, that kind of stuff, hearing things, right? Hearing things like just words or seeing words in my head, you know? And some people are like, oh, I just feel, so we'll go through the clairs as part of the class, like beginning tarot. Like one of the things we overview is what are all the clairs and how do we work with them?
What is clairs?
Like, so most people know the term clairvoyant.
Right.
Oh, she's clairvoyant. So it's seeing, right?
Okay.
So you can see. So there's a bunch of different clairs. And so when at the beginning of the reading that I did with you, I'm like, I'm clairaudient, sentient, buoyant. So see, feel, hear. I can feel the vibe of a situation. So like, let's say I'm doing a relationship reading with you. I can not only feel the vibe as a whole of the situation that you're kind of like in the throes of, but I can probably pick up on your partner's vibe and what they're feeling, and same with you, right? And then seeing, I see images. And so I keep what we call like a spiritual dictionary. And that's one thing I teach is when you're starting to open up to this, how do you just know certain things? You know, because everyone's like, oh, I just knew that. Or, okay, well, how did it come to you? Actually think about it. How did it come to you? Did you just know? Did you hear it? Did you see an image and knew what the image was? So I tell people to keep track of that stuff, whether it's on like an actual journal next to their bed and they wake up in the middle of the night, or a notes app on their phone. How are you getting what we call like a download, right? Like how is that coming to you? And pay attention to that and pay attention to your yeses and your nos. So I tell people to start working with their yeses and their nos, because that's first and foremost your fundamental building blocks of intuition, right? Getting to know what is yes for you and what is no for you. And there's books, you know, on everything and anything. And some people are like, the right side of your body is a positive, it's a yes. The left side is a no, it's a negative. For me, my yeses and my nos, it's almost like peripheral vision. Like I barely see a red flag over here if someone's asking me direct yes or no questions, or it's a green over here for yes. But it took me a while to get to understand that.
Right.
Sometimes I'll just hear directly yes or no, When I do have like auditory conversations, it is always in my right ear though. It's never in my left. It is always like someone is standing right here speaking to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's just, you have to just start to pay attention, right? And there's exercises you can do. And so in my classes, I give people a whole packet of exercises. We actually do fun games, like intuitive games. We do I take the 2 truths and a lie.
Oh, yeah.
I would get like past students to come in. And so if we had like a smaller class of maybe only like 8, because I've taught up to like 30 people at once. And so the bigger the class, the more fun, right? Because the more energy, and it's fun when we get to doing the reading every session. But I'll invite a ton of like past students who still are in community with me and, all the stuff that we do. And we'll break up into groups and we'll do 2 truths and a lie. And it's super fun. But that's a really good way to start to get to know, your yeses and your nos, and keeping track of how does yes feel in your body and how does no feel in your body. And when you were wrong about something, that is going to be one of your biggest indicators. The more I paid attention to the times that I was like wrong about something, how did that feel in my body? And it felt like I was rejecting something, right? You know how like when people are like, I knew I should have listened to my gut, or I knew, it's like, remember that feeling and then do the opposite of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because to me, a lot of times my yeses and my nos, like I'll get that feeling and then I'll be like, oh, it's this.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm spot on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's super fascinating. And you're talking about gifts and intuition kind of interchangeably. Am I understanding that correctly?
I mean, I guess they're the same thing. I just call them, because like that's what I was told they were when I was younger, right? They were referred to as our gifts because they're given to us by divine.
Right. I just feel like intuition is something that people can much more easily wrap their heads around.
Absolutely.
Or like, accept.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I use things like tools, right? Like a pendulum, or I use, tarot cards, because it's visible. People can see it. It's confirmation for the words that are coming out of my mouth. And then all of a sudden a card comes out that means exactly what we were just talking about, or the concept of what we were just talking about. And they're like, oh, and you can have fun with it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as your specific gifts and like what you help people with, again, I know you said your intent is love and light, and
but that's just like how I'm working with myself. Like I'm not calling it anything like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But no, what I also tell students, the more you work and develop this, right? It's like going to the gym. It's like building muscle. The more you develop your intuition, right? Your gift, whatever it ends up being, or gifts, the more you start to realize when you do readings for other people, the more you start to realize the type of people you're calling in. And that could also be because of your own ego and your own crap that you're going through, because we always say, when I do a reading for somebody, it's not only a healing for them, it's a healing for me. There's always a little bit of that message that I'm giving them that's also meant for me. And so if I'm going through like a big phase in my life, a lot of times I will see a correlation with those are the people that are coming to me, right? So people who need help in that specific area.
Okay.
We just opened up so when I say we, me and 3 other readers just opened up a new intuitive reading studio in Allentown in Buffalo on Delaware. It's called Moss and Moon. And one of the women deals a lot with medical trauma. So people who have cancer, autoimmune disease, all kinds of like long-term illnesses. So she does readings for them, right? And she can tap into all kinds of fun stuff and energy healing and do all kinds of stuff with that. And then one of the women is shadow work. I know, and that's like a term that some people are like, I don't even know what that is.
That sounds scary.
That is a whole nother episode. It's not though. It's just shining light on your dark. But it's when you're ready. It's like when people are like, oh, I'm ready to see a therapist. That's all shadow work is.
Gotcha,
it's like when you're ready to finally bring your stuff to the surface and deal with it.
Yep.
That's shadow work. But you got to work through it, right? I always tell people you got to heal through it. Can't go around it. But she specifically works in that, helping people figure out what's going on with them, the type of shadow work they should really be diving into, and like what kind of outcomes do they want, and like, what kind of healing do they want, that kind of stuff. So I've noticed over the last like 10 years of readings, especially in the last just like 3 or 4 years, I call in divine feminine. So I try not to gender it, because I do have gendered men that do come to me, but they're more of a divine feminine energy. But it's people fudge around and find out
Yes.
era of life is what I always call it. It's your fudge around and find out era of life. And so it's when you're really sick of your own stuff and you're ready to just like, some people are getting out of, situations of domestic violence, abusive relationships, and they're finally ready to step out of that. They're in their empowering like era of their life where they're ready to just say, why am I calling these types of people in? Or why am I calling these types of situations? And they're ready to take like accountability and ownership of their part in what they've manifested in their life. Right. And it's hard for us to understand that. It's not to say that we deserve how we've been treated if we've called in something horrible, like a really bad situation. We don't deserve that. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. And it's not anything that like we intentionally called in. I always say, my students love it. Right? If you take a step back when you start doing that work, and I always tell people, work with a therapist while you're doing shadow work, because when you start to bring those feelings to the surface, you don't know what to do with them, right? So it's good to have that guidance on top of this kind of guidance, right?
Right.
But it's hard because we have to, I guess with my readings, I notice it's people that need to be able to swallow the hard pills, or they're ready to start swallowing the hard pills in their life about themselves, because they're like, oh, it does start and end with me.
Yeah.
So it could be in anything, though. It could be their career. It could be their family life. It could be relationship. It could be any number of things. So I set intention to just bring the most healing message forward that I can. So even if they're like, I have this very specific thing that I want to talk about, I'm like, well, good luck if that's not what Divine wants to talk about, but let's see what we got.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when you did my reading, you said have an intention, and I purposely did not have an intention related to my family and like the situation that was going on with that. And so you went through the whole reading and it was mostly like aligned with the intention I had set. But at the very end, you had that like, oh, by the way, kind of thing. And I was like, that I can't escape it, because you were like, whoever's trying to come back in, don't let them.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
But that made me laugh, because I was like, here I am, like purposely trying to not waste this situation on that. And like, I just couldn't.
Yeah, but then that means there needs to be some energy and attention to it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, and it was very healing for me to hear that like I was doing the right thing. But yeah, it just made me laugh. I told my husband later and we were like cracking up.
Well, I think one of the questions on your list, if I'm not mistaken, was like, oh, now I can't remember. It just like really went out. But it's when I do readings, it's like, it's not fortune telling. So like, what is this?
Misconceptions. Yeah.
It's not fortune telling. It's not, which also that's a horrible thing to, like not horrible, but we don't say that. It's not future telling, fortune telling. It's not, I read within the energy of what's going on right now, and we are all beings of free will, right? And so the energy and the way that things are starting to pan out and the decisions that you're making or thinking about making, like think of it like, like a radio, like when you watch a apocalyptic movie and they're trying to tune into a frequency, it's just to get a hold of somebody to say, hey, we need help.
Yeah.
That's all this is. I'm tuning into your frequency. I'm trusting my higher self, my relationship with my team around me to tune into your team and your frequency. That's all. It's energy. It's all frequency and energy. And it's like, I'm just trying to align with that. And so with that, it's everything that's going on right now. And if you truly believe that it's going to end up this way, or you're not sure if you should do this or that, right? Sometimes people come for guidance or clarification, right? Well, this or that. I can give you that information because I'm just a messenger, but you're going to do what you want with it, right? We're beings of free will. So I'm just the messenger, so you decide what you want to do with that. And you'd be surprised how many people will fight you on it at first. And then I always get the email like 2 weeks later and they're like, everything was exactly what you said. And holy cow. And oh my God. And I'm glad I actually chose to listen.
Yeah.
But it could change, right? I could tell you that you're going to get divorced, which I try not to say things like that though. Like I don't make those type of statements, but I could tell you that and then you never do. But why didn't you? Did you settle? Did you stay? Were you scared to leave? Were you, And so people sometimes don't understand when like, whoa, that thing didn't come true or didn't happen the way it's like, it did. You need to take a step back and look, right?
Right.
We're going through a house buying situation right now. We're trying to find a home. And I walked up to this house and I was like, oh yeah, no, we're going to get this house. And my husband was like, he's like, can we just go look at it first? And I'm just like, well, yeah, that's fine. That's the
Yeah.
fun of it. Let's go do it. I said, but we're going to get this house.
Oh my gosh.
And so we like went in, loved it, but he builds like stuff for a living. So he's the analytical, and I'm the woo-woo over here. So we ended up putting an offer in and we get it accepted. And then like 2 days later, right when we're about to do the whole process for inspection, the seller comes back and says, well, I never signed the contract and we got a better offer in. Sorry, you lost it. And he goes, where's your intuition now? And I said, technically we got the house, bro.
Yeah.
Technically we got the house. It wasn't wrong. They did end up coming boomerang back and being like, do you still want it? And I said, see? But we didn't want it at that point. We're like, no.
That's terrible.
But it also didn't happen because bigger and better. We started seeing what we do really prefer versus what we don't prefer, right? And so it's like our realtor, she's like, you guys are like the easiest people to work with because the housing market's insane right now. I don't know if any one of you are trying to buy a house right now.
No, thank God.
It is insane.
Yeah.
And we've put in like, I think 4 offers at this point in like literally the last month. And it's been nuts. And so when we hear no, we're like, okay. And she's like, I don't understand why you guys are, she's like, I have to have therapy sessions with people when they don't get the house that they wanted. And I'm like, it's just not for us. It's just not for us.
It's a great,
bigger and better is coming in. It's just not for us.
It's a great mentality to have.
Yeah. Our house is coming.
Yeah.
So we're not worried. So.
Yeah, and you're right. And you'll end up in something better. That made me giggle a little because that's how we ended up in our house. I kept telling we weren't married yet. We were getting married that year. And so he was pushing. He was like, we should buy a house. We should buy it. And I'm like, let's just slow our roll. Everything's fine. And I was like, all the houses look like boxes. Like no houses look like houses. I said, I want a house that looks like a house. And so he ended up like sending me the listing for the house that we're in now. And I was like, oh, okay, let's go look at it. Literally walked in the front door. I was like, oh, this is our house. And he was like, don't say that too loud in front of the realtor. And I was like, oh no, we're going to be living here.
Yeah. Hell or high water.
And we ended up, but it was that gut feeling. I don't know.
That's your intuition.
Yeah.
Because you feel connected, the frequency. Again, this could be another like 3 podcasts worth of information, but on another timeline, when we feel connected and called to something like that, like I just have always wanted to live in Chicago. I've never been there. You're living there in a different timeline and a different reality.
So
that's working out well for you.
Well, that's so interesting. So talk to me about deja vu.
It's the same thing, same concept. It's like we've already kind of been here and done that, and we're setting ourselves up. And so it's like a rewind kind of a thing and going, am I going to learn this lesson in a different way now? You may have learned it. So depending on how you believe things, we come back, right? That we want to get off the wheel of karma, right? And so when we come back, it's because we're one step closer to doing that. And so you may have gone through that same lesson in another life prior to coming back to live this life. And that's why it feels familiar, because Divine's putting you in the exact same situation to see what you're going to do this time. Are you going to mess it up? Or this time, did you really learn? Because if you're going to mess it up again, well, now we got to go through all these lessons, and they might be a little harsher than the last time you learned it, even though you don't really remember learning them because it was from another lifetime.
Interesting. I was once told a long time ago that like when you have deja vu, it's good because it means you're like on the right path.
Because you're remembering that lesson, right? One of the biggest things with my readings is I get women, gendered women that'll come in, because it's always gendered women that have, sorry, Rich.
Yeah.
This is not to be offensive, sir. It's always some idiot guy, and they're like, it's always, I can't learn my lesson. And I'm like, it's, same lesson, different face. Think about our lessons in life, right? From Divine. They start off small, and that's why we're not paying attention to them, right? Because they're small, so they're going to give us another one. Same lesson, just different face. And then we're going to learn just a little bit. And so it's like this growing. And if you don't learn it, it gets more chaotic, it gets louder, it gets harder, it gets harsher until you wake up and it gets so uncomfortable because they're like, why would God, like people, make statements like, why would God put me through that? Why would God let that happen to me? And it's like, because you haven't been listening all these other times. Now take a step back, take the victimization out of it, objectively look at this. You have seen this lesson before, just in a less chaotic way, a less severe way, a less loud way.
Yeah.
And you didn't listen to it then. And so there's a lot of times where I'll get women in for relationship readings when I hear this phrase, I know that someone cheated on them or like totally just obliterated their heart before they even start talking. And it's always God let them, God let them betray you so badly so you would never let it happen again. Because divine is like, okay, I'm stepping in.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot keep doing this, girl. Like, get it together. And so you get this partner that is so bad and just treats you so terribly that you finally get to a breaking point with yourself where you're like, no more, no more. And some people, unfortunately, don't learn that in this lifetime and then carry it over to the next.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like I said, that could be a whole series.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think that's a great place to kind of wrap things. We've pretty much covered everything that I want to talk about. And of course, I want to be mindful of your time. So to kind of like bring this all together, my audience is millennial moms. So we are in a very unique parenting situation, I feel, as far as how we were raised with the values and the culture. And then, we're trying to heal our own trauma and break the cycles and like do better because we just have more information. You know, it's again, no slight.
Cycle breakers.
Yeah, no slight to like previous generations, but it's just we have the information, so we're doing the best that we can. So what advice would you provide this audience?
Learn to let go of what no longer serves you, even if that's a husband or a wife or a living situation or whatever. Learn to let go of what no longer serves you. And if you don't know what that is, but you're starting to feel it in your bones, do a what's working, what's not working, what's helping, what's hindering, right? Like on one side of a piece of paper, what is not like working? And we got to take our feeling out of it, right? Be very raw and honest with yourself of what is not working. And maybe your marriage is beautiful. So I just go to that because it's something that everyone can kind of
I was going to say, you keep bringing that up.
It's because it's like, no, you're good. You're good, girl. No, but it's because it's the most relatable, right?
Absolutely.
So when I use examples, but it could be a job that you've been feeling stuck at for a decade and you're finally feeling like you need to make some movement, but it's an assessment process essentially, right? And so it's really and truly raw and honestly with myself, what is no longer working in my life, and just list it all out. Just list. And I tell people, do this in the full moon, right? You got the day before, the day of, and the day after during the full moon. Work within that energy. It's amplified energy to like push things forward for yourself. And like, the full moon is for letting go of what no longer serves you. We've come full circle. And it's like, how are we to let go of things? Because our kids look at how we handle things.
Yeah.
And when they see us clinging to the wrong person, when they see us clinging to a job out of scarcity, right? It's abundance for scarcity mindset, first and foremost. Why are we so scared to let go of these things, these concepts, these patterns of behavior? Because what may not be serving us doesn't necessarily have to be a person or a job. It could be a mindset, a pattern of behavior, right? And our kids are always looking to us and at us and absorbing everything around us. And with how intuitive they are, never underestimate what it is their understanding of a situation is, even at a very, very young age. So be mindful of that.
Yeah.
How do you want them to see you moving through life, right? And do we want them to have our anxiety the way that we do? Or do we want to teach them to work through that? So I think the biggest lesson for me, and now that I try to really instill in my kids, is let go of what no longer serves you with love and gratitude. Understand the lessons, accept the lessons, even if they hurt, even if they really, really hurt.
Yeah.
Accept them for what they are, look at them, examine them, and how then do I want to move forward? How do I want my life to look, sound, and feel? And who do I want to grow into because of this situation?
I love that. And you're so right. The kids are always watching. And that's one of my biggest motivations for doing whatever I'm doing. Like, what kind of example do I want to set for them?
Yeah.
So,
and just do the best you can with what you have, like you said, right?
So wrapping up, where can people find you if they want to work with you? What does that look like?
So you did mention Nickel City Wax and Wing, but I'm transitioning because it was art. It was an art studio. And then I, started working for another large art institution that I can't do that now.
Okay.
And so I just started a new website and business called Nickel City Moss and Moon.
Okay.
And so it's an intuitive reading studio. It's where you can book all of readings, classes, events, all kinds of fun things, private reading parties. We do girls' nights in there. So we have someone coming doing like a 90s PJ party with their friends. So our space has like a little living room and like a little loungy area and like a little bathroom. And then we have a private reading room. So it's like, we'll set up the vibe for you, whatever you want it to be. Just bring whatever you're drinking and eating. And then we could take up to 10 women at a time, or people. We work mostly with women. We are not opposed to working with gendered men at all, but mostly women come to see us. Gendered women come to see us. We go to their houses. We do big events, all kinds of fun stuff. So
awesome.
Nickel City, Moss and Moon.
Great.
Yeah.
And I'll share all of those details in the show notes. So just make sure you pass that over to me, and I'm not sharing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Sorry about
that. No, you didn't know. Because my card that I gave you.
Yes.
I just did the Upstate Indie Wedding Expo over at Resurgence last week. And so I just got new cards with new information on it.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Okay. We will have the correct information in the show notes. And so you can reach out to Jenn. Having a 90s PJ party sounds great to me. I'm just I'm going to talk to some of my friends, get that going. But yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, this was great. And thank you everybody for listening. Be sure to subscribe and tell your millennial mom friends. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Momming as a Millennial. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend or on social. You can find more from me at contemplativemama.com. Until next time.